Hi there, this is Clovis. I will quickly explain what's new in PhysX Painter 2.0. There are quite a lot of things, so I will try to do that quickly and everything will be explained more in depth in the other tutorials. So now to create PhysX Painter, you have to go into the helpers in Kinematic Lab category and create PhysX Painter helper. And everything is going to be stored into this helper. Now to open the UI, you open PhysX Painter UI, you click this button in the helper. And you have new things here. You can add multiple colliders, so I can select objects and add them as colliding objects. Let's add some assets to do more things. Okay. There are some options here which are new and they will be explained in the tutorials. And also you see the vertex count value here, which is into this column as well, is new. This is the optimization of the assets. So it's now done automatically. You don't have to do it yourself. So you just pick your assets and they will be optimized by a modifier here. So you can change the vertex count from here and generate some low-res version. And you can do that as well from this list. So you select some assets here and change the value. Here, press generate low, and those will be optimized. You see that they have different vertex counts. So let's go back to 200 because that's a good mid value. Okay, so the lower, the better, of course. So it's going to help the simulation and the brush as well. Now let's go to the brush options. One new thing is this distance value. So let's just disable this. If I paint assets, you see that now it's not it's not one unit, it's not one scene unit that we have here. It's more based on each asset size. So bigger assets are going to be to have a bigger distance, and smaller assets will have smaller distance. So it's really based on each asset size and volume, and not really on units, on scene units or scene size. So this default value of 1 is going to work whatever size you have and whatever scene you have, which is way easier to manage. And you can change this value as well, of course. And I can press Shift and Control, left click and drag to change the value from the brush without going into the UI. Okay. And you see that while I'm into this this brush mode, I can go into the UI and make some changes. Okay, I'm still into brush mode. I can change anything I want. Okay, navigate the UI, navigate Max UI even here while I am still into brush mode. So it's easier than quitting the brush and doing some changes, then starting the brush again. Okay. Also, there is this checkbox to use the paint colors. Okay, so if I check this, it turns gray and all new assets are going to be green. You can change the colors, of course, but you can choose not to display those colors and keep the textures you have. Okay. You also have now the ability to lock X, Y, and Z positions and rotation axis. It was only on scale on the previous version, but now it works on position and rotation as well. So if you do a random rotation on -180 plus 180, it's going to be, those values are going to be repeated in Y and Z if you check this. So you can make random rotations like that on all axes. And that's the same for the position, for example. So the assets are more scattered around the brush position. Okay, the brush itself has been completely rewritten. So it's now way faster than it was before. Just let's remove those. You can really add thousands of new assets and paint on thousands of assets under the mouse, and it's going to work much more smoothly than it was on the previous version. you can paint on multiple colliders assets at the same time. So the brush is really been rewritten completely, and it's now much more performant. There is no real slowdown when you paint. Okay, and one new addition, and which is really cool, is the ability to do Control Z and Control Y on any brush action you do, which doesn't look like a crazy feature, but actually it's quite complicated because there are a lot of things going on into this tool. So I'm pretty happy with this. Okay, and the brush itself is now all in one brush. So before we had a few different buttons for different brushes, but now the main functions are into one brush. So if I press Shift and Control, I change the distance value. If I just press Shift, I paint the assets one by one. If I let's activate the physics. If I press Control, I activate the assets, and they are simulated again. If I press Alt and left click and drag, I will delete assets. Okay, so it's all in one brush. Okay, and I can undo anything, redo anything. Right, let's delete some assets. And the orient to false normal and orient to brush direction are now checkboxes, so it's not a shortcut anymore. So if I add some assets like that, I can just check this option, and they will be projected along each collider's normal. And this one will orient along the stroke. Okay, those new things are forces. So this one is the world force, the MassFX force. So if I just paint assets, this one will just bring them down. It's the gravity. Okay, I can turn it off, so there will be no gravity, but still there is a simulation. So they will just move, okay, with no gravity. This one is an attraction force. So if I create some new assets, when I release the mouse, they will be attracted to each other at their average point. Okay, and this force is adjustable in real time, so you can increase the force or decrease it, okay, to have more gravity going on. Or if you go negative values, it will just repulse them. So I can attract and repulse. Okay, this one is explosion. So if I create new assets and release the mouse, they will explode. Okay, maybe the force is a bit strong now. Yeah, it's a bit too strong. Let's just reduce it. Something like that maybe. Yeah, it's a bit better. Okay, there is a new brush. Let's delete assets. The drop assets brush. So this is a new thing. With Control Shift you change the radius, with Shift you change the height of the brush, and with Control you can change the number of assets that are going to be created. So the assets are not painted on top of the collider's surface, but really on top of the brush circle. Okay, and they will be dropped. So if I just left click, they will be created on the yellow dots, and then they will fall down. Can change the number of assets here, and they fall down and collide. Okay, about presets, this button just restores the default values. So if I change some things here and press this button, they will restore all the default values. Also, there is something pretty useful as well. Let's make a kind of preset here that I would like to use in my scene, for example. And let's say I close this UI, or I close Max, or change, reopen the scene or anything. I can just go back into the helper here, reopen the UI, and my latest values are going to be there, okay, because they are stored in the helper itself. So that's not a preset, that's just saving the current values, but you can create your own presets as well. You can pick a custom gravity and change its acceleration. This is new, and this is working like these forces. This is working live, okay, during the simulation. You can choose to use the ground collision, so that's the MassFX. That's the MassFX ground. So if you open the MassFX tool here, that's this checkbox and this ground height value. That's the same. Okay, and if you go into the helper, there are some improvements as well. You can select assets, source objects into this list and turn the copies into instances. Okay, so these new assets, oh, I have to select all of them to be sure they are all instances. Okay, so they are now turned into instances. You can turn them to copies. Okay, you can select all, select copies. Okay, or select the source objects. Let's say I just want to select these source objects. Okay, now I select those objects. I can display as box or display low res meshes or high res meshes. Okay, this is just changing the K-hole switch value here. I can also collapse and clone and collapse all these assets into one mesh, and these have been improved as well. So it's much faster than it was to collapse thousands of meshes. And that's it. Make sure to watch all the other tutorials because they will explain more in depth all the new features and all the new things. Yeah, thanks for watching. Bye bye.